Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And to kick off this review, we are going to have Cal Giuchesta reading a wonderful comment.
Hi everyone, this is Kendrick Lamita Martino, blah blah blah. This whole album is a ripoff of all of the Kendrick album, and every song sounds like Kendrick's flow, cause Kendrick is the best. Kendrick, K-Dot. T-Pab is a classic, and this is just trash, cause nobody can touch my daddy Kendrick, K-Dot, blah blah blah. I give a strong 3 to a light 4. Transition. Let me know if you thought and if you agree Kendrick's next project is an instant classic.
Oh my god, that was beautiful. Logic is a Maryland rapper, aka Young Sinatra, and he is back with a new full-length commercial album just a year after the release of his commercial debut, Under Pressure. Striking while the iron is hot, I see, through a series of mixtapes, great performances, freestyles, Logic has proven himself to be a formidable spitter, a decent lyricist, and a pretty versatile artist. He's delivered club bangers, grimy old school, hardcore hip-hop, boom bap, and some very smooth, moody, jazzy, and introspective tracks as well. And he seems to have a pretty tight grasp of all the various hip-hop styles that he has been emulating over the past several years. Which is great, but after numerous projects, I still feel like I don't quite have a grasp of who he is as an artist. He has technical ability, he can put a song together, he can certainly flow, he's got a decent voice, he picks likable beats, and he can follow through with the concept on a song. But this is like a lot of baseline stuff. Beyond that, I can't help but feel like his style is just a composite of his contemporaries, who he is just a little too eager to follow in the footsteps of, most notably Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And sadly, this continues onto his new album Over Here, but this record is not without its improvements upon what Logic was doing on his last record. First off, the production. The budget on this production seems much larger, and it doesn't show in a really extravagant producer list with a lot of huge names or anything like that, although there are some notable people who do show up. There is DJ Khalil and DJ Dahi and Six, among many others who helped make this album sound great, including Logic, who apparently has numerous producer and co-producer credits on this record. It's pretty cool to sort of see his talents expanding into the realm of beats, because the beats actually sound pretty fantastic on this thing. The instrumentals on this project are lush, they're gorgeous, they're densely layered and pretty well arranged when they bring in some horns or some strings. Some of what goes on here is almost soundtrack worthy, kind of orchestral, especially the intro track. And of course, there's some jazzy pianos on here as well as some trap influenced bangers. I wouldn't say the production is mind-blowing or envelope-pushing or game-changing, but it is well assembled, and there are quite a few highlights in the track listing. The looped, hypnotic vocal harmonies on the song Fade Away are great. Also, the very airy, ethereal woodwinds on Like Whoa! The booming percussion on the song Young Jesus is a little bit of a throwback, although not as much of a throwback as the intro would allow you to think, let's take it back to the 90s! It's not so much like we're going deep into the 90s, like 94 or anything like that. It's more 1999 Young Mos Def Black on Both Sides 90s. Also, the song Paradise, which features some very smooth, moody, beautiful instrumentation, a bass line that seems heavily influenced by the Shireen intro from Good Kid, Mad City. Alternative singer Jesse Boykins appears on a feature. He's one of the few features on here, and actually that's a pretty cool that Logic keeps the album mostly to himself and sort of carries the album on his back. And for the most part, he does a good job in that respect. I don't really feel like I'm dying to hear anyone's voice, anyone else's voice by the end of the record, which I think has a lot to do with Logic's versatility as he bounces around from one emotion, from one flavor to the next. But that being said, Boykins does provide a really great, deep, emotional vocal during his appearance on this record. I think this album has a lot of good things going for it musically, but there is a bit of a distraction here, a bit of a subplot. It's a storyline that we are introduced to at the very beginning of the album. It takes place on a spaceship and is mostly played out through dialogue between two of the head officers on this ship. It takes place in the future, and these people are essentially looking for a hospitable planet to replace the planet we used to live on. The population of humanity has dwindled down to like 5 million people, and now we're just looking for another planet which we are calling Paradise. And it adds to the ritzy feel of the album because the voice acting is pretty good, the sound effects are very vivid and rich. These little bumpers, as weak as some of the dialogue is, feel pretty cinematic, and I think this most definitely comes from Logic's love of filmmakers like Tarantino and just film in general. It's almost as if he wanted to put a movie within his album. And the way Logic's music plays into this story is that his album over here, which is new to us and old to the people in the story, they're playing his record, they're calling it oldies, and this album is essentially their soundtrack to finding this new planet. Maybe Logic gets a little too self-congratulatory with his involvement in this story, as the main characters here refer to this album as the album that changed everything. And one more thing that would never happen in the future, we have one of the spaceship commanders asking the computer's AI to impersonate Big Sean because he just really wants to talk to Big Sean. No, 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 no. As far as the individual songs on this record go, I think Logic gives some good performances here, but his will to trend chase, I think, kind of drowns out his lyrical efforts and talents. There are some people who are going to hear this record and they're going to instantaneously call copycat. And maybe that's true in a sense, but I feel like Logic is capable of so much more than what he's doing sometimes. And I'm just not really feeling some of the heavy-handed predictions he's making for his own music, not only with the introduction of this record, but on the track Fade Away as well. Just like I'm not sure if Logic is aware just how Drake-ish some of his vocal inflections sound on some of these tracks. Like on the computer skit toward the beginning of this record where we are talking about the spaceship systems being updated so that they can emulate different people across time and history and so on and so forth. Logic is updated so that he can emulate more rappers more accurately. And in the midst of these emulations, Logic does throw in these really speedy paradiddle flows on a lot of these tracks, but a lot of them are really just not leaving that much impact for me. It's almost as if he's like spitting lines of passionless code at me that just don't leave that much of an impression. And of course, there are tracks on here, just like his last album, that specifically remind me of other songs. I mean, the intermission on here is so smooth, jazzy, and neo-soul inspired, it doesn't sound too far off from something from To Pimp a Butterfly. And on the track I Am the Greatest, there are a few moments on here that kind of remind me of Drake's. And Kanye's Flashing Lights actually comes to mind on the song City of Stars, one of my least favorite tracks on the record, with the exception of the very heartfelt verse on the back end of this song, actually probably the most lyrically poignant moment on the entire record. Logic goes into label issues, music industry stuff, race, love, politics, and social things. He's addressing deeper topics here as well as on the song Paradise, where he talks a little bit about love, his past, his perseverance. On the song Never Been, I find Logic's singing to be really passionate, really heart-wrenching at points. I had no idea he had so much vocal range. He's one of the few rappers out there right now who I think sings as well as he raps. The refrain on here about not letting the devil in, set against the very luscious strings on this song, it's definitely a high point, definitely a very gorgeous moment on the album, but these songs really account for a handful of my favorite moments on the LP. When Logic slows down typically and drops other lines on many of these other very middle-of-the-road tracks, his mind gravitates towards things like being really happy he didn't get a girl pregnant in college, or just various musings about his rap skills and his dreams and the music industry, which is all fine and all good, but I don't really find Logic's observations on any of these things to be all that refreshing or new. Making the LP even less memorable in a sense are the constant instances of deja vu where I just feel like I'm being reminded of someone else. As I'm listening to this record, in my head, Logic racks up one comparison after another to a bunch of very popular hip-hop artists who have come out with records over the past 5 years. And yeah, maybe that's not a big deal to you, and I wouldn't say it's a huge deal to me. I mean, I do like the record, I do like the album, but it keeps the album from being exciting, surely. So at the end of this project, I'm feeling very much like Logic's last project. I think it's decent, I think it's skilled, I think it's got a lot of great foundation underneath it. I like the instrumentals. The storyline that moves along with the songs is cool, even if the songs have very little to do with the storyline itself, maybe with the exception of a few spots where his lyrics directly reference things like paradise, as well as space, and that kind of ties into the tale. But I just kind of feel like I'm listening to the last album, but with kind of a bigger budget. I see the effort made here, and I appreciate the effort, but it's like Logic put effort into everything aside from making his own style, his own lyrics, his own voice more distinct and less comparable to his contemporaries. I'm feeling a light to decent 6 on this. It's decent. It's all right. Zishin, have you given this record a listen? Have you given it a try? Are you loving it more than me? Is it the greatest record that you've ever heard in your entire life? Let me know. And tell me why in the comments you think I'm wrong and I'm a horrible person. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Smash that fucking like. And that's about it, y'all. Anthony Fantano, Logic, forever.